here is Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. OJ Simpson remains a fugitive from justice tonight, his whereabouts and his condition unknown. Tonight, his lawyer shared with the public what he called a suicide note written by Simpson shortly after he was informed this morning that he would be formally charged with 2 counts of murder in the death of his ex-wife and a young man who was with her at the time. The letter was read by a friend of Simpson's at a news conference this evening.
Don't feel sorry for me. I've had a great life, great friends. Please think of the real OJ and not this lost person. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I helped yours. Peace and love, OJ.
Simpson also said in the letter, "I can't go on no matter what the outcome, people will always point." He also wrote letters which were sealed to his mother and to his children today. The disclosure of these letters was the latest in a series of bizarre and tragic developments in this case, which began early Monday morning when the bodies of Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman were discovered outside the home of Simpson's ex-wife. After frantic speculation for several days, Los Angeles authorities decided Simpson was their man and informed his lawyer, who said Simpson would surrender today. When Simpson missed several deadlines, police went to a home where he was being counseled by his lawyer and examined by doctors. As police closed in, Simpson and a former teammate, Al Cowlings, fled, leaving the lawyer, Robert Shapiro, behind. Los Angeles District Attorney Gil Garcetti was angry.
It is our profession. We hope you will all understand that I speak for everyone at NBC Sports when I say that there are no words that could come close to expressing the depth of our feeling over this entire tragedy. But we also hope you will appreciate that we have no choice but to proceed for the time being with the coverage of the game.
Which is being trailed by a phalanx of California Highway Patrol cars and helicopters, belongs to Al Cowlings, who disappeared with OJ Simpson earlier today, shortly after Mr. Simpson was informed that he was going to be formally charged with the murder of his wife and the young man who was with her at the time. It is the latest bizarre development in a string of bizarre and shocking developments that have been going on all day long.
And again, you're in contact with whoever is in the car at this point. You're really not sure.
Personally, our dispatch had a 911 call from the vehicle a few ago. I don't know what the substance of that conversation was.
And we really don't know how many people are in there, do we?
Well, the sheriff's deputy in the vehicle...
What we're hearing here is a man from the California Highway Patrol by the name of Pete Gustafson, who's describing to KNBC anchors Paul Moyer and Colleen Williams what they've learned. And what they've been doing is trailing this car for some time because they received a cell phone call on 911.
Call. So the contact was made directly from the Ford Bronco here to emergency services, right?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to listen to 3 other radios. Can you say that again?
I said, this is the first we've heard. There's been a 911 call from this vehicle?
Yes.
Can you tell us what the radios are saying? Is it anything pertaining to this particular situation?
No, but if I can put you on hold, I could probably get some more info.
Why don't you go ahead and we'll get back to you as soon as you're ready, all right,
Okay.
Pete? Thanks.
Again, to bring you up to date, we believe that that car belongs to Al Cowlings, who is a lifetime friend of O.J. Simpson and disappeared with him today from a home in the San Fernando Valley as police were closing in to make an arrest of the well-known personality shortly after he had been formally charged with 2 counts of murder.
Again, we assume we're still on the
There has been no positive identification, however, of O.J. Simpson in that truck or of Al Cowlings. However, the truck is not pulling over. The chase has been going on for some time, as you can see, at moderate speeds.
An APP has been put out for O.J. He's been missing since about 11.
Earlier today, we heard a letter from O.J. Simpson written to the general public in which he said, "I can't go on," and his lawyer described it as a suicide note. We'll bring you up to date on this situation if a resolution is reached with all the continuing developments. Now let's go back to Marv Albert in the playoff game. Marv.
And a former teammate at Southern Cal, and the police radio is reporting that OJ is the passenger in the car. The car is somewhere by Disneyland. Let's listen to KCAL.
One thing we have been noticing, again, it's a very slow pursuit followed by numerous highway patrol vehicles, but because of the intensity, it seems like people have heard about what's going on. At this point, it's still a fairly laid-back situation. dangerous situation at the same time, because again, the Highway Patrol does not want to intimidate, and I repeat, do not want to intimidate this vehicle into doing anything that they really don't want him to do. And the main thing is to get him pulled over as safely as possible. And there's only a couple ways that'll happen. One is him just pulling over and or running out of gas. So at this point, we can only pray that they'll be able to pull this off in a safe measure.
There also appears to, all the other cars are pulling over to the side. Obviously, people listening to their radios know what's going on here. And that car appears to be in the second lane.
Pursuit, and unfortunately, it has a lot of mitigating circumstances because of the high profile of the proposed suspect that's inside the vehicle, which could possibly be and appears to be at this time OJ Simpson.
Now they're moving over into the third lane. This car is not traveling at high speed, but California Highway Patrol and a lot of them are right behind it. Helicopters are above. This is the KCAL helicopter. That's our CNN affiliate. This is in Orange County, heading north around Disneyland. There you see all the police cars following them. And apparently any traffic that was on I-5, and that would be very crowded right now, has pulled over to the right or gotten off that freeway.
But we have seen one vehicle in the past that actually ended the pursuit at Parker Center, so it'd be quite ironic if that was to happen with this one traveling all of 5 to get to Los Angeles and then just go right and give up at Parker Center. So we'll just have to see what happens.
They could be heading, as the gentleman said, to L.A. Police Headquarters. That is a possibility. And that report was from a police car about that gun. We do not verify that, except we did apparently hear a police car say it. Okay. Again, that is apparently Al Cowling's car, and apparently O.J. Simpson is in the passenger seat. It is heading north toward Los Angeles, through Orange County, on what normally is a very, very heavily traveled I-5. It is now 7 o'clock in Los Angeles. This would be near bumper to bumper normally. Apparently, with people listening to radios, they're all getting off that highway or cleared over to the right. You can see cars slowing down above it. There are no lights on these freeways, so they're all
91.
Paying attention to their radios. And he's just crossed under 91. We had no idea what that was. We'll continue to follow as they continue to, apparently he has gone on to I-91. Have they reported that, or is he still on 5? Now, he must be on I-91 because there's a lot of traffic there now. Police cars are in the left lane. He's in the lane right next to the left lane, and you see other traffic in the 2 right-hand lanes, and they're slowing down and moving over. Police reports, again, we're telling you this is a police report from one of the police cars that O.J. is in the passenger seat with a gun. The driver is apparently, although we don't know, Al Cowling, former teammate, one of his oldest friends.
I wonder if any of that's confirmed.
All of this is, again, reports we're getting from Los Angeles. You're watching CNN and our coverage of this ongoing, incredible story, of which we have no reference point because there has never been a story like this.
Yeah, Pat, here we go.
Suzanne,
we'll pull out, and right now we are on the 91.
Report, that's our affiliate in Los Angeles. This is,
except for the ones that are following the white Bronco.
those are those cars following what is presumed to be the car containing O.J. Simpson, now a fugitive from justice. The car is traveling at normal speed. The police reports that O.J. Simpson is in the passenger seat and apparently has a gun. And Al Cowling is the driver, apparently. And let's listen to more of KCAL.
Right now, but again, just kind of going to take the time and patience of the officers down below just to kind of follow the vehicle and decide what they want to do. But as we always have seen in pursuits, and again, this is nothing but a pursuit at this point in time, although it's a very high profile at this time, they will just kind of hang back and let the pursuit progress and see exactly what happens. But again, trying to make it as safe as possible and not try to intimidate the driver, whoever that might be at this point.
The hope, of course, is that they are heading, with everyone's fingers crossed, to police headquarters.
Well, Pat, from our point of view, of course, you know, we're too high, and we tried getting lower earlier, and we could not get our lens tight enough to find out and make sure that this was the exact license plate. But we have heard that the police have confirmed this is the suspect vehicle, which you have the number in front of you, 3 DHY 503. It is a California plate, and that seems to be the vehicle that all the highway patrol are following. And of course, you can see they're lined up abreast and following the vehicle at a very slow pace, just trying to keep it as safe as possible.
The city of Los Angeles has been racked these past couple of years, and this is just part of this continuing saga. As all
well, David,
the
at
cars
the
are pulling
altitude
off
that we're
that
at, we're at
freeway.
1,200 feet right now, as per request by the law enforcement. It's very difficult for us to tell. I don't know how much tighter Jeff can get with the lens that we have here, and he says that's as tight as we can go right now. So from our vantage point, we cannot tell exactly how many are in the vehicle at all.
Again, all this is presumption now. It's apparent that the police believe it.
Well,
and that is Cowling's car, and that Simpson is in the driver's seat. We've received a report of a gun in the car. The car is heading north, which would be toward Los Angeles. We picked it up in Orange County. The vehicle is registered to Al Cowling, a former teammate, close friend of OJ Simpson's, who has been a fugitive from justice now almost 12 hours. The car is not exceeding the speed limit, and the police are not forcing it and are not pulling it over. You see them all trailing it. That's the California Highway Patrol are trailing it, but not pulling it over.
Show the people on the bridges, Jeff.
Obviously, everyone else has pulled off the lane. As you look far ahead, no cars are there. Now it's going to go under another freeway, and you see police cars atop that freeway. Now, the police do have speakers in those vehicles. They can speak, as if you've ever been pulled over sometimes, you'll hear the police officer say, come out of your car. If you were speeding or something, they can speak to that car.
Of that area, and we are told by the California Highway Patrol that OJ Simpson is in that car holding a gun to his head. He has been in touch with a police highway dispatcher saying he wants to be taken to his mother. He wants to see her. But we don't know what the resolution of all of this will be. There are 9 black and whites, most of them from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and at least 1 police helicopter following at this time. Al Cowling, we're told, is driving. OJ Simpson is in the back seat with a gun at his head. They fled earlier today when Simpson realized he was about to be arrested for the murder of his ex-wife and the young man who was with them at the time. So now this situation has taken an even more bizarre step as we watch on live television OJ Simpson negotiating with a police dispatcher, being followed down a closed freeway by 9 sheriff's deputies and most of the Los Angeles news media. Back to you, Marv.
That it is definitely Al Cowling's vehicle. And they are almost certain that OJ is in the passenger seat.
Pat, we're just now crossing the 605
California
at the
Highway
91.
Patrol is also telling
so we're
CNN,
starting to
and
get
I'm
up
repeating
into
this to you as I
the
hear
Long
it in
Beach
my
area, or
earphones.
actually northeast Long Beach.
That again, OJ appears to be holding a gun to his head.
Well, David, the 405 is not too much farther down than 91.
Apparently in his cellular phone that he wants to go to his mother's house.
Will be the Long Beach or the
But
710
he wants to
freeway.
go to his
Then after
mother's
that
house.
would
Is
be the
apparently in
110
a
freeway.
report we're getting.
And then after that, you'd hit the 405. So, I mean, at this point, we really have no idea which or where the final destination may be for purported O.J. Simpson inside this white Bronco.
You are listening to KCL's coverage. There's an anchor in the studio and a man in the helicopter, a reporter. That has been identified as Al Cowling's car, O.J. Simpson in the passenger seat, apparently with a gun, with a report coming. Apparently they're picking this up through some sort of phone that he wants to go to his mother's house. Of course, we're here in Washington, so we don't know where his mother's house is. California Highway Patrol is telling CNN that OJ Simpson, through his cellular phone, is reportedly wanting to go to his mother's house, and if that's true, the police are letting him, because they are not pulling up alongside this car. As you see, all the California Highway Patrol cars trailing it. The cars on the other side heading south are stopping to look over. All of these people listening to their radios, other cars driving off the highway, and as they pass overpasses, people are stopped to look down.
Let's see, David, I've got, right now, it's passing one vehicle on the right. There's some cars on the freeway. Maybe everybody doesn't know what's going on yet at this point. Absolutely. But up ahead, and I'm just going to kind of let Jeff take the camera and pan around, then we'll come back to the suspect vehicle. But now you can get an idea. Right. I've just kind of had to put the helicopter in a crab here. Okay. Now you can kind of see of what's going on. Now you've got traffic in the southbound or the eastbound lanes is fairly heavy, but in the westbound lanes, which are the direction that this vehicle is moving, are all it's fairly light. People have pulled off to the side. So at this point, you know, again, it is a pursuit, and that's, I'm sure, the way that the CHP is dealing with this situation. The main thing, again, is we'll say, and I'm sure I'll say it a couple more times before we're finished here, is that they want to try to keep it as peaceful and safe as possible, and without any intimidation, or as little as intimidation as possible with the vehicle. Very close to that, Pat. You know, just traveling along the roads, I'm not exactly sure which ones we're coming up. It appears right now we're coming up on Lakewood Boulevard at the 91.
They're on I-91 now, by the way. That's heading west, and then they'll cut into 101 and the 405 freeway.
Artesia.
The 405 is the one, the Artesia freeway, and then the 405 is the one that goes by LAX. That would head them toward the city as well. All those cars are stopping to get a view.
That's
they know
correct,
what's going
David.
on by listening to their radios. We're just going to have to wait and see
at this point and see exactly
now, there's
what is going
nothing,
to go on and take place.
KCAL is reporting, there's nothing you can really do here but keep this helicopter right on top of the scene.
Rather unusual way to end the situation.
Stay with it. They have identified this is Al Cowling's car, OJ Simpson in the passenger seat. We have not received an affirmative that Cowlings is driving it, although that's a fairly good assumption. In the car. But very little traffic as all these cars attuned to their radios are pulling off. The cars on the top of the screen heading east on that freeway are just slowing down to look and get a glimpse of one of the icons of American sports history, OJ Simpson, on this tragic June day. In a city besieged with stories, when you think what can top one with another, another occurs. Again,
45 minutes at the most.
I don't know.
I'm trying to keep it as slow as possible and as low as possible in torque.
The car, of course, is not going very fast.
Please keep it on.
The police are just trailing it. There are a bunch of police cars
Kyle,
trailing
I might
it.
have about 45 minutes at the absolute most left, so we're just going to keep going as long as it can.
I know. This is Larry King as we stay atop this scene. Jim Hill, famed sportscaster in Los Angeles, an old friend, a former athlete, old friend of O.J. Simpson, is going on radio in Los Angeles.
Still going westbound 91, just approaching
the
710 freeway.
To turn himself in.
According to the lanes,
Jim Hill is going on radio in Los Angeles, appealing to O.J. Simpson to please turn himself in. He is on 91 West.
At the 91 westbound, very slow, David. Right now, I'm indicating 55 miles an hour airspeed. It could be a little bit slower down on the ground.
There's the traffic. That traffic is going east on 91. 91, if it stays, goes right out toward the water. And those are all those vehicles, the police vehicles, following this car. We have Jim Hill, an old friend of OJ's, former athlete and sportscaster, on the radio, hoping that OJ is listening to the radio and begging him to turn himself in. Okay. OJ's mother lives in San Francisco, where he grew up. There is a belief, though, that she flew to L.A. today.
We are acting.
Let's listen to this officer.
Assistance capacity at this time.
What about the report that officers, whether they be Orange County Sheriff's deputies involved or your officers from the CHP, have seen OJ Simpson with a gun to his head in that vehicle?
Yes, I don't have any specific reports on that, on the information that I have. So I can't comment on that.
But if there is perhaps a weapon or fear that there might be a weapon inside, safety has to come into play here when you're considering trying to stop a vehicle, correct?
So helicopters overhead representing both the law enforcement authorities and the news media. And you can probably believe this in our modern popular television culture. People are going to the freeway, parking their cars, and waving at OJ, we're told, as they drive by. As we stay with this picture now, we want to share with you a portion of a letter that OJ Simpson wrote earlier today and wanted read to the American public. It was read by a friend of his at a news conference. Here now is a portion of that letter.
My thoughts. I think of my life and feel I've done most of the right things. So why do I end up like this? I can't go on. No matter what the outcome, people will look and point. I can't take that. I can't subject my children to that. This way, they can move on and go on with their lives. Please.
That was a letter that was written by OJ Simpson and given to a friend of his that was read at a news conference tonight. When he was informed that he was charged with 2 counts of murder, he also wrote a letter and sealed it for his mother, wrote another letter and sealed it for his children, and he spoke with his lawyer as well and apparently dictated a codicil to his will. His lawyer, Robert Shapiro, said that he was examined by doctors. They also had psychologists in place, and when the professional team went upstairs and as the police arrived, OJ Simpson and Al Collins left the home, apparently got into this white Bronco, and they have been cruising Southern California under the most dire circumstances ever since then. We want to share with you as well what was heard by Los Angeles and Southern California police authorities today. This was the All Points Bulletin that came out alerting all law enforcement officers to be on the outlook for this very familiar American figure.
Attention to a suspect wanted for a double 187 in West LA Division. Suspect named Orenthal James Simpson, OJ Simpson. Suspect may be driving a white or light-colored Ford Bronco. Suspect was last seen wearing a yellow golf shirt, faded blue jeans, and white Reebok tennis shoes. Suspect is possibly armed. Use caution.
That was the All Points Bulletin that was issued for O.J. Simpson. They now have him very much in sight, of course. They are tracking him on this freeway. They have closed off all traffic in these lanes. I believe that there's a truck just in advance of him. NBC's George Lewis in Burbank tells me now that O.J.'s mother is at his estate in Brentwood. He left there yesterday and was saying you can see the people gathered in the overpasses watching this drama play out, both on the streets and on television. It is something out of Nathaniel West being played live on television involving one of America's most beloved sports figures and folk heroes, now a man accused of 2 of the most brutal murders in recent Los Angeles history. We'll be back with more after this.
Highway Patrol's Pete Gustafson tells CNN that O.J. appears to be holding a gun to his head. Those CHP are trailing that car. The car is not exceeding the speed limit.
If you have just joined us now, just to recap very briefly, as we watch this Ford Bronco continue westbound.
Earlier today, Robert Shapiro had arranged for OJ to turn himself in. Doctors were in attendance. They were all going to go together in a car because they were worried about suicide. When they went downstairs from a conference room in OJ's house, he was gone. Shapiro did not hear again from him. We then had a press conference later in which Shapiro announced that OJ had written sealed letters to his mother, to his children, had codified the will. That means might have changed and added to and had the will certified, and then wrote a letter to the public in which OJ said such things as, "I have nothing to do with Nicole's murder. I loved her. Recently, we'd come to our understanding. For now, we're not right for each other. It was tough splitting." But then it goes on in a rambling account saying goodbye to people and saying he was pretty much at the end. It certainly reads like a suicide note.
11:45 was the next time he was supposed to do it. He didn't do it. And then the all points bulletin went out. OJ Simpson has been missing now for about 7.5 hours as this relatively low-speed pursuit goes on. You heard the CHP officer.
Vince Evans, quarterback with the LA Raiders, the ageless Vince Evans, is now crying. He is on the radio pleading with his friend OJ to please give himself up. Vince Evans, the well-traveled quarterback in the National Football League, is now on the radio begging OJ to give himself up as the car with OJ in it passes some other passenger cars on California Interstate 91. That's the Artesia Freeway. That will, coming toward the 710 freeway, is where the next big freeway they'd connect with. If they stay on 91, they're heading toward the ocean going that way on a direct line toward Manhattan Beach. They are south of LA and south of downtown. This car is heading due west.
Television broadcasting. It's hard to believe that something like this could happen where he is now running for his life here. He is a fugitive on the run. Authorities following him they believe he is in this vehicle right now on the West 91 near the 110 freeway. And it's interesting to note the time. This started apparently around 6:45, a little bit after the main part of rush hour. Authorities, though, are attempting to clear the freeway, although you can see a car right there going up right next to the Bronco. Not an easy job clearing the freeway. OJ Simpson formally charged today with 2 counts of murder. He was supposed to surrender at 11 o'clock today. Basically, his attorney turned his back, and OJ managed to get away. Get away, apparently, with his good friend Al Cowlings. Now, we have a little bit of an update. This is off the Associated Press wire, or excuse me, the Reuters wire. According to someone who is monitoring police scanners, the man in the car says he would not give himself up. He's in the back of the vehicle. He has a gun to his head, and he says he will hurt himself. He is demanding to be taken to his mother. Now, that apparently is information off a police scanner, according to the Reuters newswire. We continue to watch from Sky 11 this 1993 Ford Bronco. We do know that this is the vehicle that belongs to Al Cowlings, former pro football player himself, a longtime friend of O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson, when he was preparing to surrender this morning to be picked up by LAPD and taken to Parker Center, wrote 3 notes, one to his mother, one to his family, and one that his attorney and a friend of his, a friend read this afternoon at the attorney's office in Century City. And to listen to that note, it sounded very much like a farewell goodbye from O.J. Simpson. Said that he basically thought he had done what was right all his life and wanted to be remembered for that. He asked the media to leave his kids alone and for all of us to remember him for what he had been. He also proclaimed his innocence in that note. He said, quote, "First, everyone understand I had nothing to do with Nicole's murder." Went on to say, "If we had a problem, it's because I loved her so much. Don't feel sorry for me. Thanks for making my life special. I hope I help yours. Peace and love, OJ." His attorney had said that he'd been extremely depressed. He was under the care of doctors. One friend is quoted as saying he had never seen O.J. Simpson so low.
The vehicle, we believe, with Al Cowlings and O.J. Simpson in it, and it looks like the emergency flashers are going on that Bronco. That's the first time we've had sort of this view of the vehicle. And it is going westbound again. It appears the way the sun is hitting the front of the vehicle, although it's a little bit difficult to tell because they have made a transition from one freeway to another. And there you see just a huge number of police cars, CHP, Orange County Sheriff, LAPD, presumably Los Angeles County Police Department as well as LA County Sheriff's cars, all a respectful distance behind, just waiting, hopefully, for this to play itself out peacefully without any further loss of life or any more damage and destruction. On the phone now we have psychiatrist Dr. Tom Linden.
But still, in the state of mind that we can guess that he might be in, he can't be thinking too rationally. Is that correct?
Well, people who are acutely suicidal do not act rationally. So the point the idea in dealing with acutely suicidal people is to get them in safe hands so that they don't do anything that obviously could not be undone. If you make an attempt on your life, you're not in a clear, sane mind at the time, and certainly.
If I'm reading it right, this is Larry King at CNN in Washington. We're picking up reports from KCAL and other affiliates in Los Angeles. My guess is they're on 710 North now. They veered off 91 onto 710 North, if I am correct. Look, I'm looking at a map here of Los Angeles, and I'm guessing they're somewhere around Paramount heading toward what would be Downey. They have the flashers on. That's been identified as Al Cowling's car. And O.J. Simpson, now we had said passenger side, apparently is in the back of that car. It's a 1993 Ford Bronco, very popular automobile. Okay, now we understand we have a psychiatrist with us at our studios in Atlanta, Dr. Alfred Nesser. Are you there, Dr. Nesser?
I'm here. Messer, M-E-S-S-E-R.
All right, thank you, doctor. Based on what that psychiatrist just told the Fox station, would you agree with him?
Oh, yes, I think Tom Linden has it just right. What he's describing, I think, is what we call a dissociated state, where people act in one way, or a part of them acts in one way, and they behave in another and think in another. The end result of that, or the end station of that, is multiple personality disorder. And here we have a more acute phase of that, a dissociated state.
What part, doctor, does the fellow driving the car, his old friend, play in this now?
Well, he's the key, I think in many ways the key, and I think his friend Vince is the key. What O.J. has to know is that he's not being abandoned. He's not all alone. He's very angry at all that's happened to him, but he has to know that he's not being abandoned. In my book, I think a lot of this began with the difficulty with his ex-wife and her feeling that the two of them could not make it together. Larry, do you remember the situation in Annapolis before the Army-Navy game when the two Navy officers who were engaged split up because the woman wanted no longer to maintain the engagement?
That's right. One went
and she said to him, it's ended, and he went off in a huff. She called a good friend, another naval officer, to come over and sit with her and comfort her. And then the first man came back and suddenly saw these two together, and he shot the two of them, and then he shot himself.
Dr. Messer, I'm going to cut into you, and let's go back to KTTV for more reports right from the scene.
I used to watch O.J. play football at USC when he was in college. I've got long memories about O.J., as do a lot of people, and I think a lot of people want to see this end peacefully, but I think they should keep in mind that joining in the spectacle at this point will not help.
We should add at this point, Dr. Tom Linden, that the car is now northbound on the 405, coming north from the 91, so headed back up toward the Santa Monica area, actually a long way from Santa Monica, but in that part of the world, coming north on the 405 freeway, on the San Diego freeway. And I'm struck, Dr. Linden, in regard to what you just said about having watched O.J. Simpson play for SC and for the Buffalo Bills and so on, and certainly all the myriad of commercials. Something that Gil Garcetti said today at his news conference, the district attorney, who said, "We have seen the falling of an American hero." And I, Gil Garcetti, have shared that same view. And that's a view that we, particularly if you are an SC fan, of course, but I think just a sports fan and an American fan. Here's a man whose last name never needs to be mentioned. It's always O.J., and everyone knows who you're talking about.
Well, you know, in such a chaotic and sometimes crazy world, everybody needs heroes, and there are, I'm sure, millions of Americans have looked to O.J. as a hero, and when a hero is in trouble, it's very, very hard to accept, and I think that's probably the feeling of a lot of people. It's certainly my feeling.
Dr. Linden, let us give our viewers some more information. We understand the vehicle is traveling northbound on the 405 near the LAX area, south of LAX. Traveling northbound, interesting to note, that would be toward the Brentwood area. That is where O.J. Simpson lives. That is near the location where the murders took place. Again, the vehicle has moved now from the 91 freeway to the 405. Before that, it was on the I-5 freeway. So they've covered quite a bit of distance here.
Christine, in that last close-up we had, it appeared that, although we had the one report that O.J. Simpson was in the back seat of that Ford Bronco, it looked as if in the last close-up we had of the passenger side that there was a person in the front passenger seat. Obviously somebody's driving it, but a person in the right front seat as well.
Right, you can see perhaps it looks like maybe a shoulder there or the seat there in that close-up shot of the Bronco. We should point out there are a convoy of officers that have been following this vehicle since it hit the freeways at about 6:45. That's when they spotted the vehicle. Among the people traveling in these vehicles is a top law enforcement hostage negotiator, part of the convoy trailing this Bronco. There are reports the authorities were trying to phone the Bronco, but they were getting no response. We do know there is a car phone in that vehicle because some calls had been made, and that is one way authorities were able to locate the vehicle, and they have confirmed this is the vehicle belonging to O.J. Simpson's former teammate, Al Collings.
And indeed, the cellular phone call at about 6:30 was what did trigger it. Because of technology, they knew that, number one, they knew that this was a vehicle that O.J. Simpson possibly was in, because it does belong to Al Collings, and he and Al Collings disappeared from another Simpson friend's home in the San Fernando Valley this morning. The attorney and a psychiatrist that had been dealing with O.J. Simpson since Monday and some police officers were on one part of this friend's home, and they went to tell O.J. that the police were here to put him in handcuffs and take him to Parker Center, and they discovered that O.J. Simpson and Al Collings were gone. That
was used, what kind of trace evidence, hairs, fibers, blood stains?
For the defense, right?
Well, he hadn't been arrested yet. In order to make sure that nothing was overlooked, because O.J. Simpson wanted to find out who really killed his wife. And whenever that is, his lawyer, he hadn't been arrested yet, had wanted to make sure that nothing was overlooked. And we were there to collect evidence, to go over
so
what had been done.
As he says in his own letter, and as he said to you, he never admitted killing, right?
Well, certainly not to me. He seemed to be bewildered, Larry, as to why people were so felt he had killed his family when he was bereaved and very upset at what had happened.
Do you think,
and he couldn't quite understand why suspicion was pointing to him.
The L.A. police would have allowed you to cooperate with them?
Well, Bob Shapiro was in the process of doing that, yes. Both Henry and I have worked for the L.A. police in the past, and with Gil Garcetti in the district attorney's office. And what we were doing, he hadn't been charged with anything. Once he was charged, then we can get more information.
They wouldn't have exhumed the bodies, though, right? You would have looked at their reports.
First, we looked